Hello, my name's Ashley McGinley along with Laura Hall and Lloyd Doherty, and our presentation today is on the Writing Developmental Continuum. Literacy begins well before a child starts school. Media and texts around the home allow children to experiment with literacy and writing, and as a result, children start their progress through the Writing Developmental Continuum. The Writing Developmental Continuum is made up of steps, phases, or categories that list the main aspects which child will progress through. It also has indicators that describe what the child will display when they enter or pass through a particular phase. Indicators can range from attitude and strategies to word usage or content understanding. Each child will move through these phases at their own rate and may demonstrate a variety of indicators from different phases at any one time. It is designed to provide teachers with a way to identify where children are at in their writing development so that further development can be planned. Children are rarely in one phase, and this is due to there being so many aspects of writing. All aspects of writing will not develop at the same rate. First Steps provides an overview of Writing Developmental Continuum, as well as indicators for Writing Developmental Continuum. The overview of a Writing Developmental Continuum shows a set of 6 phases, which starts from beginner writers through to advanced. For each particular phase, there is a description and a picture, key indicators for what the child will display in that phase, along with major teaching emphases to provide support for the teacher on how and what to teach children who may be in this phase. First Steps overview of Writing Developmental Continuum also provides a set of manners or approaches in which they believe teachers should model throughout the progression of a child's writing development. They include modelling good English language, modelling writing every day, encourage students to reflect on their understandings, gradually building a complete picture of written language structures, ensure that children have opportunities to write for a variety of audiences and purposes, and encourage students to share their writing experiences. How important is the continuum for teaching? The Writing Developmental Continuum is useful for teachers in understanding the goals of literacy instruction and in assessing children's progress towards these goals. Teachers will also then need to adapt these goals to ensure that children continue their progress towards the goals. Teachers need to understand the Writing Developmental Continuum and be skilled in a variety of strategies to assess and support individual children's development and learning across the continuum. Every student wants to learn and should have the opportunity to learn how to write. Teachers that follow a Writing Developmental Continuum are ensuring that students have this opportunity. Each phase identifies what a child should display whilst at this stage in his or her writing. By ensuring that all points are met by the child before moving on to a new aspect of writing, ensures that the child has developed or developing towards all aspects of writing and not just one or two, simply meaning they can highlight or tick off the key indicators as the child progresses through it. As a teacher, you must and develop the language the child brings to school. This encourages the child's progression throughout the phases and helps them gain control over their writing.
The Writing Developmental Continuum is supported by the Australian curriculum and has been for over 20 years. Its main idea, the developmental stages for writing, are still considered relevant and incorporated into today's curriculum. The 6 stages, in order, are role-playing writing, experimental writing, early writing, conventional writing, proficient writing, and advanced writing. As these are still used in the planning of teaching students, it shows that these ideas are considered by the government as well as the education department to be effective in shaping the teacher's understanding of how students learn their new skills. The idea of the teacher being able to guide the student's learning and to give structure and support is supported by Vygotsky and Piaget's research. The design of the Writing Developmental Continuum follows the idea of scaffolding and teacher-guided tasks. As the theories regarding this teaching style are considered to be effective, the Writing Developmental Continuum, being based on them, will be effective when put into practice. It contains relevance to students in class as it follows the structure of teacher-guided lessons and scaffolding. These ideas have been researched and refined, showing that they benefit student learning and support knowledge growth for students. The research supports their inclusion to the curriculum and directly influences the way children are taught. The Writing Developmental Continuum has immediate links to students, helping them learn. The use of phases is also important in catering writing tasks for students. The idea that students cannot learn until they have met certain prerequisites is common with learning theories, such as scaffolding. Higher stages of learning build on previous knowledge and need certain ideas to be in place before new skills are developed. Students will not be able to write their name without being able to understand letters, for instance. As language is primarily used for communication, it makes sense for the writing developmental continuum to support learning through interaction with both other students, and their teacher. Interactions and meaningful events can only be beneficial to students' learning, as they help the child link the learning to real-world tasks. The idea behind the writing developmental continuum is also supported by the theoretic perspectives of language development, showing that the way students are taught at each level and stage has the highest amount of relevance to what needs to be understood for that phase. However, a teacher may find it difficult trying to teach students at 20 different levels within the stages. Even though it can be effective for a student to be taught in this way, when it's catered for them, when a teacher has to adapt the lessons to suit the entire class, some students will not be challenged at all, while others will be too far below the standard to be able to gather anything of use from the lesson. As the writing developmental continuum has been so effective for such a long time, teachers should be able to see why it is being considered to be so effective. Its ties to the structure of the curriculum mean that it is closely linked to the outcomes desired by the Curriculum Council, and in turn, ACARA. Piaget and Vygotsky's research show how scaffolding is necessary in improving students' learning, and literacy is no exception. They show how students learn new knowledge by building on their previously learnt knowledge. When teachers understand this, they are able to plan lessons that fit the students' capacities more accurately. When a teacher is able to see how students learn and process new information, they can see how relevant the writing developmental continuum is. They are able to gain a deeper understanding of why it is used, as they gain a better grasp on how to use it. The opposing perspectives show that even though the writing developmental continuum can be extremely effective in theory, in some situations it is very difficult to implement. A teacher has to be the one to make the decision as to how they will use it and what they need to add or adapt in it to make it more effective for their class. It shows that even though it's preferred that students learn in a particular way, sometimes that just isn't practical.
All of the phases of the writing developmental continuum can be linked to the Australian curriculum. Phase 1. Role-play writing. Children are beginning to come to terms with a new aspect of language, that of written symbols. They experiment with marks on paper with the intention of communicating a message or emulating adult writing. The key indicators for Phase 1 are: the writer signs a message to own symbols, understands that writing and drawing are different, e.g. points to words while reading, is aware that print carries a message, uses known letters or approximation of letters to represent written language, shows beginning awareness of directionality, i.e. points to where print begins. All of these indicators link to the curriculum in the foundation level outcomes. Creating text. Produce some lowercase and uppercase letters using learned letter formations. Expressing and developing ideas. Recognize that sentences are key units for expressing ideas. Recognize that texts are made up of words and groups of words that make meaning. Phase 2. Experimental writing. Children are aware that speech can be written down and that written messages remain constant. They understand the left to right organisation of print and experiment with writing letters and words. The key indicators for Phase 2 are: the writer reads back own writing, attempts familiar forms of writing, e.g. lists, letters, recounts, stories, and messages, uses writing to convey meaning, realizes that print contains a constant message, uses left to right and top to bottom orientation of print. All of these indicators link to the curriculum in the Year 1 level outcomes. Creating text. Reread students' own text and discuss possible changes to improve meaning, spelling, and punctuation. Text structure and organisation. Understand that the purpose text serves shape their structure in predictable ways. Phase 3. Early writing. Children write about topics which are personally significant. They are beginning to consider audience needs. They have a sense of sentence but may only be able to deal with one or two elements of writing at one time, e.g. spelling but not punctuation. The key indicators for Phase 3 are: the writer uses a small range of familiar text forms, uses basic sentence structures and varies sentence beginnings, can explain in context some of the purposes of using writing, e.g. shopping list or telephone messages, as a memory aid. Experiments with words drawn from language experience activities, literature, media, and oral language of peers and others. Begins to develop editing skills. All of these indicators link to the curriculum in the Year 2 level outcomes. Creating text. Reread and edit text spelling, sentence boundary, punctuation, and text structure. Text structure and organisation. Understand that different types of text have identifiable text structures and language features that help the text serve its purpose. Phase 4. Conventional writing. Writers are familiar with most aspects of the writing process and are able to select forms to suit different purposes. Their control of structure, punctuation, and spelling may vary according to the complexity of the writing task. The key indicators for Phase 4 are: the writer uses text forms to suit purpose and audience, can explain why some text forms may be more appropriate than others to achieve a particular purpose, writes a range of text forms including stories, reports, procedures, and expositions, uses a variety of simple, compound, and extended sentences, groups sentences containing related information into paragraphs, uses proofreading guide or checklist to edit own or peers' writing. All of these indicators link to the curriculum in the Year 3 level outcomes. Creating text. Plan, draft, and publish imaginative, informative, and persuasive texts, demonstrating increasing control over text structures and language features and selecting print and multimodal elements appropriate to the audience and purpose. Reread and edit text for meaning, appropriate structure, grammatical choices, and punctuation. Text structure and organisation. Understand how different types of text vary in use of language choices depending on their purpose and context. For example, tense and types of sentences. Phase 5. Proficient. Writers have developed a personal style of writing and are able to manipulate the forms of writing to suit their purposes. They have control over spelling and punctuation. They choose from a large vocabulary and their writing is cohesive, coherent, and satisfying. The key indicators for Phase 5 are: the writer selects text forms to suit purpose and audience, demonstrating control over most essential elements. Writes a topic sentence and includes relevant information to develop a cohesive paragraph. Organizes paragraphs logically to form a cohesive text. Uses a variety of simple, compound, and complex sentences appropriate to text form. Uses a wide range of words that clearly and precisely convey meaning in a particular form. All of these indicators link to the curriculum in both the Year 4 and Year 5 level outcomes. Year 4. Text structure and organisation. Understand how texts vary in complexity and technically depending on the approach to the topic, the purpose, and the intended audience. Understand how texts are made cohesive through the use of linking devices, including pronoun reference and text connectives. Year 5. Creating text. Plan, draft, and publish imaginative, informative, and persuasive texts containing key information and supporting details for a widening range of audiences, demonstrating increasing control over text structures and language features. Phase 6. Advanced writing. Children develop their writing skills to a fluent and advanced level. The key indicators for Phase 6 are: the writer controls effectively the language and structural features of a large repertoire of text forms, may choose to manipulate or abandon conventional text forms to achieve impact, deliberately structure sentences to enhance a text and according to audience and purpose, controls the convention of writing but may make a deliberate choice to break them to enhance meaning, takes responsibility for planning, revising, and proofreading to ensure that writing achieves its purpose, reflects on and critically evaluates own writing to ensure that content and organisation suit the purpose for writing and audience. All of these indicators link to the curriculum in both the Year 5 and Year 6 level outcomes. Year 5, Text Structure and Organisation. Understand how texts vary in purpose, structure and topic, as well as the degree of formality. Creating literature. Create literacy texts that experiment with structures, ideas and stylistic feature of selected authors. Creating text. Reread and edit students' own and others' work using agreed criteria for text structures and language features. Develop a handwriting style that is becoming legible, fluent and automatic. Year 6. Creating text. Develop a handwriting style that is legible, fluent and automatic, and varies according to the audience and purpose. The significance of the Writing Developmental Continuum for teaching. The Writing Developmental Continuum is evident throughout the Australian curriculum, with curriculum outcomes that are linked to and support the continuum. By following and encouraging students through the phases of the Writing Developmental Continuum, teachers can help successfully develop their writing abilities. Teachers can incorporate the Writing Developmental Continuum into their lessons. Writing activities develop along with the school years, catering for children's needs and abilities. Teachers need to be aware that it is possible for children to be in two phases at once as they develop. Writing lessons need to accommodate to children's needs and abilities. Winch suggests 3 activities from kindergarten to Year 6 that show the use of the Writing Developmental Continuum in the classroom. This is the kindergarten task. The teacher develops students' vocabulary by encouraging news that can be used in their writing. After school excursions, the class can write group books to develop students' writing. This shows aspects of both Phase 1 and 2 of the Writing Developmental Continuum. This is the Year 3 writing task. By giving students an example of an exposition, Mrs. Lancaster has given students a model to learn a new text form. She is giving the students the ability to develop their own skills and move through Phase 4 of the Writing Developmental Continuum. This is the Year 6 writing task. The activity shows that Mr. Black's Year 6 class are primarily in Phase 6 of the Writing Developmental Continuum. The letter and other text forms demonstrated show the fluency and advanced level of the students.